Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Wealthy Sailor. Today we're going to be talking about RVs. Now, who amongst us has not dreamt of one day just giving up our house, our job, all of our worldly responsibilities and going around, drive around the world, United States, go see all the national parks, all the monuments, all the museums, whatever. I know me and my fiance have talked about going around seeing all the national parks. She also wants to see all the zoos because she loves animals, but national parks. I, for one, would love to actually go and follow my favorite football team, Philadelphia Eagles, as they go see, like, follow them around for an entire season. So all the away games, go and spend a week in that city, and then I can go visit the city and stuff, and then just go and meet them at their next city. I think that would be really cool. And I think there's also something about people like the idea of just kind of giving up the stress of their day-to-day life and just kind of getting away and doing what they want and being, free on the open road. So all of that brings us to RVs. Now, for the purpose of this conversation, I do understand that an RV is different than a travel trailer in both practicality and cost. Mainly, I'm talking about RVs, although travel trailers are kind of in this conversation too. Now, I didn't really realize so many people were looking into RVing until about a couple years ago when I watched somebody on YouTube who got an old like school bus and they renovated it to be their own travel thing, like an RV pretty much. And I thought that was really cool, so I looked into it and like I even looked into how much a bus costs and where I could park it and stuff like that. Now, in doing so, I started to think a little bit about the numbers we're talking about. Now, for this particular project, it was going to cost me about $40,000 for the bus and about another 20 to put work into it, and that it includes an entire engine and transmission rebuild because school buses actually have quite a bit of mileage in them. So I thought that would be a good idea to get. Now the thing is though, so that's $60,000. Now I looked up RVs, and you can buy some pretty decent RVs for as little as $30,000 or $40,000. Now at $100 a night, $30,000 still gets you 300 nights at a hotel. And I was like, man, but most people with RVs don't spend hundreds of nights in their RV. They take it out for like a week, maybe a week a year, or 2 weeks a year. Now, if you're retired, I understand that you do use it more. I'm not trying to say that everybody does this. I'm just talking about the main thing people I see. I also know people that hunt every weekend or go, they own land and they go shooting and stuff like that. Now that's a little different because they'll take that entire trailer up there or they leave it up there, and that's a little different. But for normal purposes, RVs, from my research, depreciate in value very quickly. Before the loan's even paid off, which is usually a bigger loan because of the cost, it's actually more like a short-term mortgage in terms of length. Like I was seeing some that were like 10 years long. So the thing, it depreciates by 50%. Usually by about year 5 or 6, and that's if you buy it brand new. Now, I do assume if you buy it used, you could kind of subvert some of those numbers, but still, it depreciates pretty quickly. In fact, it looks like it depreciates a little bit more than just buying a regular car. Now, an RV does seem to retain some of its value long term, though. So, although an RV might depreciate off the bat a little bit more, RVs, it's not common to have 15, 20-year RVs out there with good maintenance days to keep them running and stuff like that, which is actually more in line of like what a trailer or even like a conventional home will get you, where you don't buy it expecting to replace in 5 years, you buy it expecting it to last a lifetime. Same with boats and airplanes if they're properly maintained. So I went down the rabbit hole to try to figure out if this is a good idea or not, or to at least figure out if it's right for me. Again, everybody's different. I'm not trying to tell everybody else what to do with their money or their retirement or their free time, but I wanted to see what it means for me. So initially, the cost. So my fiance and I looked at different ones, and these are specifically RVs. We figured we'd get an RV and a trailer and tow a vehicle. So now we already have 2 vehicles now. The thing with having 2 vehicles is now you have to pay insurance for 2, maintenance for 2, and stuff like that. And you need 2 vehicles because if you take an RV to a certain area, you can't just take the RV cruise around the city. Usually you park the RV and use the vehicle to get around. Same with like a trailer, like a 5th-wheel trailer. I mean, they're a lot better because you're using the tow vehicle as your vehicle around. But usually those tow vehicles have to be pretty big, and they're not exactly gas efficient. Like you're talking about an F-250, F-350, something like that. Depending on the size of your 5th wheel and stuff, which might be right for you, But I know especially when I'm exploring cities, I like to take like small vehicles. Like I have a Jeep Grand Cherokee, and it's pretty much the biggest I like to take around crowded cities, just because a lot of times you're parallel parking in the very small areas. A lot of times you have parking garages that have low overheads on them, so you need something kind of small that you can kind of cruise around in. So for the purpose of this conversation, I was trying to figure out what would be better: get an RV and then load that out to go travel around, or just get a nice vehicle and then drive around, just stay at hotels. Now, as far as I can tell, there's a lot of ways that not getting an RV saves you money. For example, just gas for an RV can cost, just to go across country, $550, which is about 2 times the amount it would cost like a conventional like vehicle to drive across country. And it depends on the price of gas also, so it kind of depends on where you want to go with that. So you're talking about double the gas costs. But one thing that people don't seem to mention is that insurance for them is a little higher too. It's about 50% higher than a fully insured SUV. So what I found out was it would actually be cheaper for me just to get a very nice pre-used Jeep. I like Jeeps, but if you want to get like I could completely pay off a brand new like Nissan sedan or a Toyota sedan, a nice reliable car. Just pack our stuff in there and we can go. And then you have a vehicle there already for you to travel around in, and just stay at a hotel. Plus, if you stay at a hotel, you don't have to worry about things like maintenance, which is about $150 per month if you're using the RV. You don't have to worry about parking the RV somewhere, because people don't really understand, like, you have to pay to park at places. Now, some of the parking fees are really low. Some are, like at national parks, as low as like $5 or $10 a night. But some of them go up to about $100 a night, depending on where you want to park, and that has to be something you're mindful of. So besides all the other cost considerations, one thing you need to realize is that really with an RV, you're only saving money on where you're sleeping at night. You still need to pay for gas, which you would need to do with a regular car anyway. You still need to pay for insurance, and you are saving money per night. But if you subtract the fact that you have to pay a fee to park it somewhere, plus you need to pay fees for water and septic and stuff like that, and you pay maintenance fees, all these fees I just average about $30 a night. So when you add all these fees together, you're really only saving maybe $100 a night, which is still worth it if you're only living out of the RV. But if you're just using it on the weekends and everything like that, it's really more of like a toy than anything else. Then I don't think it's worth it. Or at least it's not worth it for me, because I don't really need that nomadic lifestyle. In fact, my fiance talked about, we'd rather get into a car, go to a hotel, a fairly nice hotel, and then just kind of use that as our base of operations while we explore stuff, especially considering her and I like to visit cities as well as parks in the middle of nowhere. I feel like RVs are primarily good if you're pretty much just looking to stay out in the middle of nowhere. At national parks and stuff like that, where lodging might not be very prevalent. But like if you're going to like Atlanta or Portland, Seattle, visiting other cities, they have hotels, and the price difference is not that much. Plus, for me still being a younger guy, I kind of like the idea of like going out to like the nightlife and stuff. And getting a hotel downtown lets me go out and explore the nightlife, and then stumble back to my hotel when I'm done with the night. And my fiance kind of agrees with a lot of that. The other thing is that I gotta tell you, the whole retiring and getting an RV thing sounds really romantic, until you realize that you have to share an RV with somebody else. They're not very big, they're pretty cramped, and if you're someone like me who has like a nice size house, and you and your wife argue over who has what in the bathroom and where the dryer is and stuff, the hair dryer and stuff is, then imagine sharing a little sink that is like a quarter the size of your bathroom vanity. And then you can kind of see what I'm worried about here. I think that as nice as the idea is, it's definitely meant for short-term stuff. So, solution. You can rent RVs, just like you can rent cars. Now, they're more expensive to rent than would be to buy, but if you're only renting it for like a couple weeks a year, then it's much cheaper to rent. They're covering the insurance on it, they're covering the maintenance on it, and here's the part I like the best. If anything gets damaged on it, it's their job to make sure it's in good condition, as opposed to your RV where, if you accidentally back into something, you're now gotta fix your own stuff. They have insurance on it, so if you back into something by accident, insurance will take care of it, and it's sort of their problem. The other problem I have with the retirement RV idea is something from my personal life. It's that when I was in the Navy and I was doing personal counseling for people, we actually had an older woman come in, and her husband passed away, and they RV'd everywhere, and he drove it. So she didn't know how to drive it. So this is in Jacksonville. They're from Texas, and she had no idea how she was going to get the RV from NAS Jacksonville back to Texas. And it was really sad that they did that. And it's like, well, I don't want to speak bad about the dead or anything, but you would think that the husband would have realized, like, hey, we're getting older, and if something happens to me, I'm kind of leaving her screwed over. Luckily for her, her son flew out, and then they drove back together. But once you get towards like the end of your life and you're doing end of life planning and stuff, please realize that perhaps driving an RV might not be the best situation for you. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching my video. I enjoyed making this one. I did a lot of research into RV living over the years, so it was fun to talk about a little bit. And please let me know if you agree with me or not, because I don't own an RV, so this is mostly like what I've been able to research. So if you have a point, or if you're an owner of an RV and you have something that you want to say, please leave in the comments below. Anyway, give me a like, a share, subscribe. Thank you for watching, and keep saving.